This is Partners in Crime with Adam Croft and Robert Dawes.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Partners in Crime. We are still going, the builders across the road are still going, and Bob is still going all sorts of places other than here, which is why we're joined this week by the incomparable Rachel Amphlett. Hello Rachel, as the sound of drilling starts behind me again.
Perfect timing. I'm starting to feel like a human boomerang with this show. You think you can get rid of me, but I come back.
You do, and we're very glad you do. So yeah, we are accompanied by the sound of drilling. You might be able
That's
to
really
hear
good.
in the
I think
background
my
there.
postman's going to turn up and rattle on the door in a minute. So it's just
Brilliant.
The sound effects on this show are going to be unbelievable today.
Well, we are the heights of professionalism, as always. It's going to be quite a news-packed show today, actually, because we had some news that we've been saving up for the last couple of episodes. We've not actually got round to because we've ended up talking about other stuff.
All right, well, let's crack on, and I look forward to hearing all your news.
Well, this week we don't have Bob whistling on with his monologues about
helps.
things, so that should cut a good 20 minutes out of the show anyway. But we start actually with some pretty sad news that Andrea Camilleri died earlier this week, the creator of Inspector Montalbano. He wrote 23 novels starring the Sicilian detective and sold more than 30 million copies around the world. He's taken to hospital in June and sadly died earlier this week. So that's a huge loss to crime fiction. I don't know if you've read or watched the Montalbano stories, still, Rachel?
It is, yeah. I've read a couple of the books, and the TV series I don't remember getting over to Australia, but I saw that news, and there were two things, the sadness of losing such a great talent like that, but there were two things that I saw in the article that I was reading about him. That for a start, he was still writing well into his 90s. He was 93 when he died. He delivered his last manuscript to his publisher earlier this year, and there was part of me thinking, crumbs, I hope I'm writing well into my 90s, because that's, I actually might catch up with some of the ideas that are going around in my head. But the second part of the article that I found really interesting was that he has followed a sort of pattern in his writing process of those books. For the 23 novels, in that they are all 180 pages long, with a certain number of chapters, and he's followed that structure for every single one of those novels, and I can't help feeling that sense of familiarity is what has contributed to them being so popular as well.
Yeah.
That it's like when you go to a favourite author and read their books, if they follow a set pattern, whether they know it or not, it's like pulling a nice warm blanket around you, isn't it? You know what you're getting, and you can sit down, you can settle down and enjoy.
I think for me, even though that structure and that familiar pattern was there in all the books, they're all still fresh and new and different, which is something that's very difficult to do.
Therein lies the skill
exactly.
as a storyteller. Yeah, no, I think that's a great loss. You're right there.
And very atmospheric books as well. It's difficult sometimes to kind of get across the feel of a different location, a different country. But the Montalbano, Sicily, definitely, even though it's somewhere I've never been, definitely comes through in droves actually in those books. So
you feel that you know it. It's such a gift when you can write setting like that.
Yeah. So shame there won't be any more of those, and great loss there to the world of crime fiction with Andrea Camilleri. Quite a bit has actually been going on in the news. I'm going to get straight to the hard-hitting topic, I think, and I'm pretty sure this is one you would have seen, again, Rachel. It's been reported in all sorts of different places, including by Alison Flood in The Guardian, in a reaction piece entitled "Crime Writers React with Fury to Claim Their Books Hinder Rape Trials." It's a story about novelists having condemned the Staunch Prize, which was created for thrillers without violence against women, and they've called it a gagging order, essentially. The article says crime novelists have hit out at the claim that fictional depictions of sexual assault influence the outcomes of rape cases after a prize for books with no violence against women asserted that stereotypical portrayals of attackers could seriously affect justice. Thoughts, please?
Knee-jerk reaction, I think, and a bit of a clickbait title. As crime fiction writers, that's part of not the job. It's not a job. Let's face it. We make stuff up for a living, but we research things really well, and I think it's a bit of a low blow to suggest that it's a writer's fault for influencing a trial. I think that's a bit too strong. There's at the end of the day, it comes down to reader's choice. That's why there are so many different subgenres of mystery. If you don't want to read I don't like horror elements in reading crime thrillers. I don't like too much gore. That's my choice as a reader. I don't read those. If you don't like anything that's particularly confrontational, go and read cozy mysteries. But to just tar everybody with the same brush, I think it's a bit too strong.
Yeah, I think my thoughts on it were actually summed up by a couple of very well-known writers. Steve Mosby, his latest book, You Can Run, follows apparently a killer who's been abducting women for 20 years. He said that the suggestion that any crime authors who write against violence against women are somehow real life women haters. He's called that not only offensive but backwards and wrong-headed.
Yes.
He said many crime writers explore this kind of material because they believe it's important not to brush it under the carpet, and they do so carefully and with sensitivity. And Val McDermid said, as long as men commit appalling acts of misogyny and violence against women, I will write about it so that it does not go unnoticed. And rightly so.
I remember all this controversy raising its head when that prize first came into being a year or so ago, and I can't help feeling part of it is raising publicity about it.
Yeah.
It's a shallow way of doing it. It's not going to go away, the argument, but I think it could be approached, I think, a little better reporting next time about it. I'd expect more. I'd have expected more from that journalist, to be quite honest. Yeah,
and I think personally, my issue with the prize itself is that pretending that something doesn't exist doesn't stop it happening. And
it doesn't help.
No. If anything, it could potentially make the issue worse. So I think crime fiction drawing attention to the fact that there are men out there who do abuse women is, I think it's good to draw attention to that and raise awareness of it in that way, rather than sweeping under the carpet, pretending it doesn't exist and thinking if we just ignore it and bury our heads in the sand, it will go away. Yeah, and vice versa. Female aggression, violence towards men, it happens both ways. And I don't know if that prize addresses that, but no, I'm in total agreement with you on that one. Yeah. Well, on to some lighter subjects. Of course, it is mid-July, and as a result, every single newspaper and magazine and website are telling us what we should be reading on our holidays, presumably via some brown envelopes from the publishers. But some of those who clearly haven't done that, of course, not suggesting anything on that front, amongst which are the Seattle Times, who have given us their enticing British whodunits for your summer reading, including Joe Country by Mick Herron, which we've talked about a few times recently, and seems to be making all of these lists this year. So I think if you look at the ones that do keep cropping up, and you'll be able to see which books are going to be big this summer, and that's definitely one. The Last Thing She Remembers by J.S. Monroe. You do realise I'm writing all these down. Yeah, buy them all. Use your Kobo discount. The Sentence is Death by Anthony Horowitz. And that was their three that they suggested. The Seattle Times. The Irish Times have given a crime fiction roundup. They have suggested Andrew Martin's The Winker, which we've mentioned on the show before, and I have to say very, very carefully. Mick Herron's Joe Country again, Alex North's The Whisper Man, and Kaz Freer's debut Sweet Little Lies, which was the winner of the 2017 Richard and Judy Search for a Bestseller competition. They've also suggested The Reunion by William Musso, I think, French author. He's #1 best-selling author in France at the moment, apparently. That's one. A good mix then. Sport for choice for that beach. Yeah, there's and one that I did like is some true crime books that were suggested by bookriot.com. in an article entitled 5 True Crime Books to Read with Your Book Club. They suggested A is for Arsenic, The Poisons of Agatha Christie by Dr. Catherine Harkup, who we've had...
She used a lot of arsenic in her books, didn't she?
She did, yes. We've had Catherine Harkup on the show quite a while back, actually. We did our Poisons special back in the early halcyon days of Partners in Crime. And that really is a superb book, and she's an incredible woman, actually, with what she knows about poisons, and very scary too. Book by P.U. Eatwell called Black Dahlia, Red Rose, The Crime, Corruption and Cover-Up of America's Greatest Unsolved Murder. Paige Williams, The Dinosaur Artist, Obsession, Betrayal and the Quest for Earth's Ultimate Trophy. The Spy Who Couldn't Spell, A Dyslexic Traitor, An Unbreakable Code and the FBI's Hunt for America's Stolen Secrets.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
And talking about spelling and dyslexia, the author's name is, I think, Yudhijit Bhattacharjee.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah.
But the book,
how's that for
sounds
irony?
amazing. Yeah. That particular one sounds like one I might be adding to my own reading shelf.
Yes. And the last one, Michelle McNamara's I'll Be Gone in the Dark, one woman's obsessive search for the Golden State Killer.
Oh, I've heard of this one. Yeah, I remember reading a bit about that one earlier this year that was coming out.
BookRiot.com say, even if your fellow book clubbers have never picked up a true crime book in their lives, I can guarantee they'll have heard of this one. The Golden State Killer was active between 1974 and 1986. He committed multiple atrocities and, most chillingly, wasn't caught. Until Michelle McNamara started writing I'll Be Gone in the Dark, one woman's obsessive search for the Golden State Killer. McNamara died halfway through writing the book, leaving such detailed research that I'll Be Gone was eventually published, and her findings are credited in helping to finally unmask the real Golden State Killer.
Wow.
So how about that, when you sit down and write a non-fiction book and you end up actually
solving the crime.
it. Yeah. Which
that takes some dedication.
It does. It's not something I think most of us would be capable of, but there we go. Anyway, so yeah, there's some recommendations. I've not got any of my own this week because we've spent so much time over the past couple of weeks talking about our own recommendations that we've not actually got round to ours. But if you
I have got one.
Go on.
Last night, we went along to Adrian McKinty's launch of The Chain, which is his new standalone thriller, having written the Sean Duffy books for a number of years. The story behind this story is just as amazing as I know this book is going to be. There was a couple of articles in The Guardian recently about his journey, basically walking away from writing a couple of years ago, only to be coerced back into it once a couple of people heard the premise behind The Chain. It's going to be absolutely incredible, I think. I'm going to start this today. The minute my writing target's done, my nose is going into this book and probably not coming out until I've finished it. So the blurb, I'll do a Bob special and read the blurb.
Go for it.
Your phone rings. A stranger has kidnapped your child. To free them, you must abduct someone else's child. Your child will be released when your victim's parents kidnap another child. If any of these things don't happen, your child will be killed. You are now part of The Chain. So that's me sorted this afternoon. That's what I'm going to be. Demolishing.
A modern retelling of The Strangers on a Train, I guess.
Yes.
That kind of
yeah.
Well, if you like the sound of any of the books we've mentioned on Partners in Crime today, and there have been a fair few considering we weren't going to do any recommendations, but we did it under the guise of news by telling you other people's recommendations from newspapers, which was, I think, very, very clever.
Sneaky.
If I may say so myself. You can get those books from Kobo. If you're new to Kobo, if you've not bought ebooks from them before, fear not. You can get 90% off of your first ebook purchase from them. You don't need any of their e-readers or devices or anything like that. You can get the free app for your mobile or tablet. Head over to kobo.com, find the book you want, and if you enter the promo code CRIME at the checkout, they'll give you 90% off. And if you're an existing Kobo customer, you can use the promo code PARTNERS for 40% off. How's about that?
That's incredible, isn't it?
Pretty good.
Huge
Pretty
savings.
Good.
No
Indeed.
excuses, people. Go buy books.
Yes, and buy lots of books and keep us afloat, please. So, other things I've seen in the news this week, we've got Noir Witch coming up, which is a kind of clever but almost unpronounceable festival held in Norfolk as part of the Noir Witch Crime Writing Festival, coordinated by the National Centre for Writing. Val McDermid gave a lecture last year, and this year the lecture will be given by BBC's newsreader George Allegories.
Oh, interesting.
Which
That's
might
good.
sound like an odd choice, but he has an upcoming crime novel. He's a debut novelist. His book, The Burning Land, comes out soon. It's his first work of fiction, which, according to the bookseller, sees him delve into the spaces between the dispatches he has brought to the nation as a reporter. Publication is scheduled for the 5th of September this year. The novel is set in contemporary South Africa, where the international fight for ownership of the country's land has turned the nation into a powder keg, the synopsis reads. It follows the murder of Lesedi Motlanshi, I hope, one of the nation's so-called children of the future. As the hunt for Lesedi's killer intensifies, former childhood friends Lindy Seaton and Kagiso Rapabani come together to try to protect the land as events spiral further out of their control. That's according to the bookseller, who I've just read that out of word for word, so I probably should credit them.
Always a good idea. But I wonder if he'll be expanding upon the history behind that novel then, when he's at Noir Witch.
Quite possibly.
I can't pronounce it. It's impossible. Change the name, people.
It's clever, but not for the audio medium.
Sometimes you can be too clever.
Yeah. Looks great written down. Through the medium of audio, not so great.
Works a treat.
But for those listeners of ours in US and Canada and Trinidad and Macedonia, if you don't know who George Allegories is, it says here he's been a reporter for the BBC for more than 30 years, as current presenter of BBC News at 6, and previously as an award-winning BBC foreign correspondent. He has covered genocide in Rwanda, civil wars in Afghanistan and Liberia, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa, and the 9/11 terror attacks. And in 2008 he was awarded the OBE for services to journalism. So he kind of knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah, he's well versed on the subject.
Yeah, got a little bit of a background. Now, we're going to touch on something that we kind of touched on earlier and something we've kind of touched on before, but, what are we good for if not recycling old news topics so that we don't have to think of anything new to talk about?
Easy.
Exactly. I saw an article in Esquire magazine, or on their website anyway, recently, which was entitled, "Is Our Obsession with Crime Documentaries and Fiction Distorting Reality?" With the subline, "As a lawyer suggests that a murdered woman pulled a Gone Girl, the lines between real life and fiction become further blurred." The article goes on to say, last week, in the case of missing Connecticut woman Jennifer Dulos, the lawyer for her husband, with whom she was embroiled in a custody battle, commented that he was, quote, investigating the possibility that this is a Gone Girl type case and considering the possibility that no third party was involved in foul play. The idea that Dulos had, as in the 2012 thriller novel, faked her disappearance in order to frame her husband for her own death, spoiler alert, was especially disturbing given the bloodstains found at her home. And Gone Girl author Gillian Flynn has since spoken out to say that she found it sickening that a work of fiction would be used as a hypothetical motive for a very real and very tragic disappearance.
Yeah, it's that irresponsible use of sound bites again, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's people, and I don't think you can. There's no comparison. What Gillian Flynn has said is absolutely correct. I'm surprised that lawyer isn't being investigated, to be honest, because that's incredibly unprofessional to come out with a comment like that is going to be bandied around on media and taken out of context as well. But I think, unfortunately, we're going to see more and more of it. I
kind of question what the point is in that comment anyway, because as far as I can see, it's not suggesting that I mean, you know, if that's what happened, it doesn't really matter whether a book or a film influenced it as much. I don't think it still happened, and that person was going to do that.
To the facts.
Yeah,
But by making a comment like that draws into what we were discussing just a few moments ago about when that goes to jury. It's it's going to be saying, oh, the jury were influenced by the book, and it's like, no, they weren't. They were influenced by the lawyer's original comment comparing his own case to a book.
I think someone who's going to commit a crime is going to commit a crime. Nobody. I don't.
Yeah, they don't go to their local bookshop and browse the shelves for ideas first, do they?
Yeah, exactly. You don't read a crime novel about a murder or about disappearance and then go, I know, I'm going to have a go at that. I mean,
bingo, found it.
Exactly. I mean, it's it might be that somebody's going to do it anyway, and then they recall a book they'd read or a film they'd seen, or they perhaps go looking for inspiration on how to do it or what exactly to do. Yeah, I can kind of see the logic in that, but I don't think that somebody previously innocent and incorruptible who was never going to commit a crime in a million years is going to be swayed by a piece of crime fiction. I just don't buy that personally.
Now that we've brought it up, I think I'm going to be reading the news with renewed interest for instances like that.
Yeah.
Because there's been a flurry of them recently, hasn't there, as you say?
Yeah, it's been interesting. That's all I'll say. There's been a few. I mean, I'm not quite sure why. I think once you're on the perch, I guess people are going to be trying to knock you off, and crime fiction is now the most widely read genre in the world. It's interesting because I don't remember over the past 20 years the same kind of criticism being levelled at romance when that was the number one genre.
But maybe it's as well that the world, because of social media and things, the world is getting smaller, and it's that attention seeking from people that, if I mention this, I'll get some eyeballs on it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. But we're going to have to defend we're going to have to, stand tall and defend the corner.
In this world of clickbait, yes. But while we got you on the show, and again on happier, more positive notes, tell us about your latest.
Oh, The Friend Who Lied. That was a lot of fun. Considering it's a psychological thriller, it's a lot of fun to write. It was, what it's like when you're writing what you've got in your production schedule for your series and stuff like that, and an idea pops into your head.
You seem to be assuming that I plan anything.
Yeah, it just won't go away. It just takes over, and you can't concentrate on anything else. And last year I became fascinated with locked room mysteries. I was reading a lot of, obviously, there's Agatha Christie, there's a Jeffrey Deaver one I was reading, P.D. James. And then
don't forget the Westerly House Mystery by Adam Croft, very good one too.
Also available on Kobo.
Absolutely.
And when we emigrated, it was a case of we were glamping at my parents' house, and I think it was, no offense to my parents, this is going to sound awful, they mustn't listen to this episode, but I think it was because our life was in such a state of flux and we were out of control of it. Our stuff was on a 20-foot container somewhere in the Indian Ocean. We were glamping at their place with our dog. We were trying to find places to live. We'd been out of the country for 13 years and we didn't have an identity here. It was gone. Even trying to open bank accounts or get a mobile phone contract was just near on impossible. And it was this sense of, I think, a claustrophobic sense took over my writing, and this locked room mystery idea, but I just wanted to put a modern spin on the idea. So I took the concept and threw everybody into an escape room. And I think it was that method of trying to escape, but 5 went in, only 4 came out alive. Then I had to work out how and why. And it's, with my police procedurals, I don't plot too much. I have a scaffolding before I start. I know the beats I'm going to hit in the story, and I know the essential parts that I have to tell. With The Friend Who Lied, that was a completely different style of writing for me. It was seat of the pants, make it up as you go along, follow the characters and find out what happens. And for my first foray into that particular subgenre, I had a hell of a lot of fun. And I'm very grateful to the readers and reviewers who have left some very kind remarks on places like Kobo about the reading experience, because I realised it was something completely different from me.
Did the process of writing in that way and not having planned ahead, did that mean that it took longer? 'Cause, I mean, it's something that I would like to do. I'll be honest, I've been writing for a decade, planning everything fairly assiduously,
Yeah,
so
same- I'm the
it
same as
frightens the
you, yeah.
life out of me just to go, right, chapter 1, start, what happens?
Yeah, I mean, it was really scary. That's probably my 18th, 19th novel that I've written and published.
Come on, catch up.
Yeah, I know, I'm such a slacker. And it was a case of, it was a bit scary. I got to about halfway through it around about Christmas time. And I remember thinking on Christmas Eve, I'm stuck. You know, without my plotting, it was the panic setting in. I couldn't do it. And I took 3 days off over Christmas and ate well, drank well, came back fully rested, as it were, to the office, and had just a 2 o'clock in the morning breakthrough moment about a particular point of view. And I found that if I tried to push away my critical voice and just trusted these characters and trusted their emotions about what was happening to them, I'd get through it. And then, I mean, by end of January, mid-February, it was ready to go off to a developmental editor who I work closely with, and the editing process was amazing. I learnt so much from that as well. And the whole process was such that I can now put that into my future writing. I've just finished K Hunter 8, that's going to come out later this year. I'm 10,000 words into K Hunter 9. The words are flying, and I think I've got a little bit more confidence having gone through that process. I am back to a little bit of structure, a little bit of plotting with the police procedurals, because that's my comfort zone for those particular stories. But it's given me a lot more confidence to try new things in future.
Yeah. Well,
and I think that's really important. I think as writers, we've got to find things that scare us.
Yes.
So that we grow and we tell different stories.
Yeah. Well, The Friend Who Lied is next on my list. So I'm going to...
now I'm quaking.
Oh, don't. I even use my Kobo discount.
That's all right.
So that's I use, of course, the partners discount to get my 40% off as an existing Kobo customer. But if you're new, you can use Crime and get 90% off. That's about it for me this week, I think. Thank you very much again for stepping in and joining us this week, Rachel.
No problem at all. I hope Bob is well rested this week.
Yes, it keeps us on the air. Anyway, so that's the main thing. Hopefully see you again here soon. So thank you very much for that.
More than welcome. Thanks for having me.
All that's left for me to say is I've been Adam Croft, you've been Rachel Amphlett, and that bloke over the road has been drilling everything in sight. So I'm gonna go over there now and slap him round the head.
Partners in Crime was presented by Adam Croft and Robert Dawes and produced by Adam Croft. The theme tune was by the Caesareans. The Partners in Crime logo and imagery were designed by Stuart Beisch. Partners in Crime is sponsored by Kobo, your favourite local bookshop, perfected.